Welcome to Alicia's Healing Heart, a space where we explore the beauty of self discovery, soul healing, and the magic of living authentically. I'm Alicia, your host, guide, and fellow traveler on this journey. Here we embrace the messy, the magical, and everything in between. Whether you're seeking spiritual insight, personal empowerment, or just a moment of peace, you're in the right place. So let's dive in, heart first. What is going on, everyone? It is your sister in spirit and your friend, Alicia Dunleavy here. And today we are going to be talking about our monthly theme, right? So for May, inside of that membership container, inside of that Discord, we're talking about embracing transformation. And that is the theme of May. Embracing transformation. And it has been really interesting to really kind of piece together, like, okay, what does that actually mean? What does it mean to embrace transformation? What does it mean to be in transformation in the first place, to even have to go through the process of embracing it, right? Embracing transformation can almost at face value feel like a really light-hearted and almost exciting thing. But for those of us who have gone through the transformational process, we understand fully that it's no joke. It is no joke at all. Transformation itself is a very deep and sometimes just, there's a lack of words, because sometimes I think that genuinely there is a lack of words to describe transformation, especially depending on where that catalyst of transformation is coming from, right? So let's just kind of dive right into it. When I sat down and sat with Spirit, and I was like, all right, Spirit, like how do we want to navigate this conversation? I had a few points that came forward that I felt were consistently channeled throughout every time I had to go through a transformation, and honestly were pretty consistent with things that I have shared with students and clients and everything in between. Okay, just friends, family. So I'm going to read off that list for you right now. And all of this list is not in any particular order, okay? There is no priority list here. First of all, embracing transformation means that you're going to be going through a pretty interesting moment of discomfort, right? And part of embracing that is radical acceptance of how uncomfortable it really is, how you are feeling about this process of change, whether it's happening internally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, right? Regardless of where the transformation is happening in your particular life, there's going to be some sense of discomfort. And so the radical acceptance of, okay, this is uncomfortable and this is how this is making me feel, is going to really begin to open up doors in terms of leaning into embracing it, right? The other part of it is the shadow work that really has to happen inside of a transformation. If you are going from point A to point B, right, there is something that is going to have to be let go of or to be processed through. And sometimes that is the transformation process, right? So shadow work, for me, it comes down to a couple of things. First of all, the duality of truth. Oof. Right? I know that the truth is singular, but there is a way that I have kind of seen shadow work where we kind of we take one idea and we split it down the middle and look at both sides of this singular truth. For example, I'll give you a simple example. If there is a person in your life who is very good at getting things done. Okay? They are a leader. Leadership is the positive side, is the positive essence. They are a leader. Okay? Now think about on a bad day, what can a leader be? They can be a tyrant. They can be bossy. They can be overbearing. They can be inflexible, right? But at the essence of leadership, it's somebody who is willing to kind of stand up and take charge. That is the truth. It is an essence. And that essence can kind of teeter between that yin and that yang. So there's and sometimes it has not totally what to do with that person, but it could have it may have to do completely with where you are at. Because on a good day, you might be like, I love when you take control. And on a bad day, you can be like, you are stepping on my toes. You are rubbing me the wrong way. Right? So again, the perspective, the duality of the truth, right? What frequency are you kind of living in to look at this person? Where is that person? What frequency is that person being inside of this essence of leadership and strength? Okay, so the duality of truth. Another part of shadow work is going to be that inner critic, which is kind of a branch off of what we're talking about, right? What sort of judgments are you having on people, positive or negative, and even what sort of judgments are you having on yourself? So the shadow work really begins to peel back these layers of that inner dialogue, of that critic, of that judge. Of course, when we get into shadow work, we're talking about dogmas and belief systems. So what belief systems were just taught to you as absolute truth? What are you carrying with you that maybe not resonate with where you are at, or maybe not resonating with this time in our community, in our society? What things were just kind of given to you, passed to you, taught to you by your parents, by your schools, by your communities? And then the other thing that kind of came through in terms of shadow work is like the archetypes of inauthenticity. So where are you being the damsel in distress? Where are you being the manipulator? Where are you being the liar? Where are you being... There's a list of archetypes that kind of come from a way of protecting ourselves and not being able to actually stand up in our truth of what it is that we want to communicate, right? The song that comes to mind is that, I think it's John Mayer, say what you need to say what you need to say, right? Instead of saying what we need to say in our authenticity, sometimes we can begin to almost doing what I'm doing now, right? But not completely. We can begin to kind of manipulate how we are showing up in dynamics to get our needs met. We have needs. We have wants and we have needs. And sometimes when we think the other person is not going to meet that need, we'll kind of shift our behavior a little bit to try to get that need met without actually just approaching the person and saying, hey, this is the need that I have, right? This is radical vulnerability. Okay. Now moving on from shadow work, we can talk about deepening our core values, right? Embracing transformation is kind of more of like the lighter part of it to me. Like after we do some shadow work, we actually get to connect with what matters to us in this life, because what you are going to find is that person to person, their non-negotiables, their core values are going to be different than yours. And this helps embracing transformation, because sometimes the thing that holds us back from transforming into the next and or best version of ourselves is the need to reorganize the inauthentic life that we have been creating. And sometimes we create that life based off of core values that do not belong to us. And you can actually see what you value by looking at how you are living. And sometimes when you're looking at how you're living, you realize this does not feel good. And it probably doesn't feel good because there's a lack of connection to what matters most to you as an individual. From there, embracing transformation can be creating rituals and routines that actually fit into your core value system. And this is really, really transformational. Difficult, right? Because once you kind of get into the routine of the life that you have been creating from a lack of self-awareness or a deeper relationship from self, that transformation into getting into a different routine, that really begins to create some pushback and some resistance against your nervous system and the neurological pathways that you've created. Not impossible, but certainly not always the easiest, right? Especially depending on where your actions and behaviors have been rooted in the first place. The next thing that we can recognize in terms of embracing transformation is going to be like awakening your inner compass, right? Awakening that intuition. Because now you're accepting the fact that like, okay, no matter what, transformation is going to be uncomfortable. You're doing the shadow work. You're kind of pulling up all of the things that are not really resonating with the authentic you, right? You're deepening your core values. You're creating routines and rituals. And now you kind of get to deepen. You have a deeper sense of self, a deeper connection to self. And you get to connect with your intuition because from a spiritual standpoint, yes, you are a creator and you are a co-creator. You're creating with all that is around you, that unseen force. Not only the unseen forces that are within you, but the unseen forces that are you, around you, in you, through you, in front of you, behind you, right? That unseen force, and tapping more deeply into the intuition in order to keep moving forward, to be put in the right place, in front of the right people at the right time, in order to continue to cultivate and create the life that you want, or the being that you want to be. I think sometimes within that, we'll go to the next that's on the list, is releasing control. And sometimes it's not just about releasing control. Sometimes it is about really getting down to the nitty-gritty of what is it that you actually have control over. And when you identify those things, do it. Redirecting your ability to control things in the place that you actually have control over. And learning how to release control over the areas of your life that ultimately you don't have control over. I can honestly say this is not always the most easy because that also requires a certain level of radical awareness. Like, ooh, I actually don't have control over this. Okay. I do have control over this. Okay, then that's where I'm going to focus and harness my energy. The next thing is nervous system regulation, right? And being able to identify, like, what are you doing from a dysregulated nervous system place? That is where we are talking about that fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, right? When we are embracing transformation, it is highly likely that our nervous system is going to get a little dysregulated, all right? And it's just not going to be regulated. And in that lack of regulation, there is a high probability that some of the actions that you are taking are not for the greatest and highest good of you and for the greatest and highest good of all. And in order to transform, sometimes one of the greatest tools that you can ever give yourself is just to regulate your nervous system. And I'm not saying that that's the end all be all, But I do know that there is a huge difference between a person who is regulated and not regulated. And I know that within myself. When my nervous system is relatively regulated, the actions that I take, the thoughts that I think, the feelings that I feel are totally different than when I am anxious and depressed and anxious, when my nervous system is just out of whack. Who I am in that state is totally different than when my nervous system is at peace or calm, balanced, right? So embracing transformation is really getting to know the hardware that you're in, this meat suit that you're in, and learning how to work with it in order to continue to propel yourself forward inside of this transformation. Two concepts that come up also beyond that is rejection is redirection. This really coincides kind of with that control thing. And the truth is, or one of the truths are that as human beings, some of the things that we really, really, really deeply crave is acceptance and love. We just want to be accepted and loved. And when we are accepted and loved, we feel so good, right? Some of you may be like, oh yeah, it feels pretty good. Okay, well let's go to the opposite end. How do you feel when you are rejected and unloved? Right? I think we see a lot of that in our communities and even within ourselves, of how feeling rejected, being rejected, and being unlovable, how it affects us to the core, and how it can lead many people down some pretty self-harmful paths, some harmful and dangerous and toxic paths. So rejection, reframing that, not as a way to reject ourselves or to put ourselves down or to even think of ourselves as less valuable. Rejection is not a tool to gauge value. That is not what rejection is. Rejection, let me rephrase that. Rejection can be a tool. This is the duality of it, right? Because this is your creative choice. Rejection can absolutely be the tool by which you determine your worth and your value. Absolutely. If that is how you choose. However, in embracing transformation, what we can do is we can realize that rejection could also simply be redirection. It could just be like, this isn't for you. This person's not for you. This place is not for you. It is not for you. Doesn't mean it's against you either, right? But it is not for you. And so deeply connecting with like what is for you will find you comes with this understanding that rejection is the redirection. It's like, okay, well, this is not for me. So on to what is looking for me. And this is really hard because those core wounds as children, really think about this, guys. We're not just born with like profound, insane wisdom. Just kidding. I think a lot of us are. But there comes a point inside of our development, okay, in our human development. I think as souls, we are absolutely just like filled with profound wisdom. But there comes a point in our development, whether it is by watching other people or instinctually, right? Because of those deep-rooted chakras, these deep root, humans are pack animals. If we are rejected, what does that mean? If we get cast out of our tribe, what does that mean? That means danger. And while consciously we may not be thinking that, because we are human, there is something deep within us that knows. There is something instinctual within us that knows that rejection could potentially mean danger. But luckily, as human beings, our society has moved forward to where rejection does not have to mean death and danger. Rejection can genuinely mean, hey, this is not for me, so I'm going to go ahead and find somewhere else to be, something else to do. It's interesting because, like, just being completely vulnerable and candid, I felt like there was another thought in that with spirit, and I felt it get redirected by, like, getting into the core instinct of, like, being connected with the body. And so I'm just creating space for that thought to be able to come back around. Embracing change, embracing transformation means that sometimes in the middle of your transformation, you may kind of get knocked around a little bit. You may get rejected here and there a little bit. And just simply remembering that rejection is not against you. It is for you. The last thing that we're going to talk about is mistakes as opportunity for growth. Mistakes as opportunity for growth, to me, feels like radical forgiveness. We are all human here. And we get to decide how harshly we are going to judge our mistakes, which is why I think, doing the shadow work as more of like this is another branch of shadow work, is what I'm trying to say, right? Radical forgiveness means that we have got to get that inner critic under control, because the inner critic is going to judge us harshly. However, infinite love and wisdom is infinite love and wisdom. It's unconditional love and wisdom. Your mistakes are innocent and are absolutely and can be absolutely an opportunity for you to grow as a person, for you to attain wisdom, for you to attain unconditional love. Sometimes we have to make little mistakes to become more loving and to become more wise. But that requires a certain level of forgiveness. Because if we decide to judge ourselves harshly inside of our mistakes, then we tend to get trapped into a shame cycle. Where is the room for growth? Where is the room for enlightenment? Where is the room for wisdom? Where is the room for love when we shame ourselves into saying, you just better not do that again? It's like, okay, I just have to try not to do it again. When we can actually be like, whoa, I did that. Why did I do that? Where did that come from? How can I learn to not do that again? Or maybe not to do it in that way specifically. Is there another way for me to do or express how I felt or what was needed to be done, right? When we come at it, not from the critic, but as the person who is curious, from a place of curiosity as opposed to criticism, we actually create opportunities for us to expand and grow. And that does require a certain level of just being able to be forgiving and kind and loving to ourselves. So this is kind of like a roundabout thing. So again, embracing transformation. How do we embrace transformation? Again, I don't have all of the answers, but when I went into meditation to talk about this with a group of people that, with my soul family, okay? With my soul family, you, the listener here, some things to keep in mind in terms of embracing transformation in this month's theme is radical acceptance, knowing that it's going to be uncomfortable. Doing some shadow work, exploring what that looks like, which of course I am 100% here for you in those one-on-ones or groups or whatever it is. Diving into that shadow work, deepening your core values, creating rituals and routines that actually align with those values, awakening your intuition, learning how to co-create, okay? Releasing control or learning what you control. regulating your nervous system, remembering that rejection is redirection and that your mistakes are an opportunity for growth. These are some tips to embrace transformation during any season. Transformation is constantly happening. You are an infinite being that is constantly evolving and growing, should you choose, right? If you're here, you're probably that person. So all of the tips, none of the tips, some of the tips might be supportive for you as you are transforming constantly and consistently. If I'm really curious, I know in the comment section you can actually like drop down some of the things that resonate with you. And I am very curious in terms of what tips do you use? What have you found to be super helpful in your journey of transformation? And yeah, I am a student also, so always curious in what tools people are using and to hear people's stories. So feel free to drop in and share your story about your transformation story. Okay. Well, we are at the 25-minute mark, and I just want to say thank you so much for hanging in there with me as we kind of superficially went across all of these topics. As we continue during this month on this podcast, we are going to dive a little bit deeper into each of these topics. And for that, I am so grateful. I'm in it with you all, okay? So thank you, May, for bringing the blossoms, the blooming within me and within the world around me. And may I find the courage to embrace the transformation that I'm going through. And may each of you be surrounded in love and compassion and in peace through all of the things that you are transforming into. So peace and love to all of you. It is your sister in spirit and your friend, Alicia here. Hey fam, are you interested in diving deeper into embracing your transformation? Then hop on in to our membership community. It is through Discord, and we have some members in there right now who are making profound changes in each and every day. We are a community of listeners, of empaths, of people who are dedicated to their personal growth and of finding depth in each and every moment. There is a sliding scale, so there's no excuse for you to not be there. And also, there are members in the container who are actually sponsoring scholarships for those who are in need. So if you are interested in joining a community where you can dive deeper into this topic and many more throughout the rest of the year, then please reach out to me at coach@aliciadunlevy.com, or you can follow the link below on the Coach U website, where you will find the link to just go ahead and join. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in there. Thank you for spending time with me here at Alicia's Healing Heart. If this episode touched your spirit, please share it with someone who might need it too. It helps with the circle of healing and growing. You can connect with me on Instagram at Alicia's_healing_heart, on TikTok at Alicia's Healing Heart, or on my website, www.aliciadunlevy.com. Until next time, keep trusting your heart and honoring your journey. And just know, I am cheering for you always.